Hey guys, welcome back to the Always in Season podcast, episode number 19. This week we're going to start our predictions for this upcoming season, but as always, we're going to do our weekly news recap.
Yeah, so first up, some CeeDee Lamb news. It's not necessarily like a report, but Jerry Jones at first said he doesn't have any urgency to get a CD contract done. To which CD replied in a tweet of that video of Jerry Jones with LOL, which Micah Parsons retweeted. Thousands, millions of people liked it and retweeted it. And then right before their first preseason game, Jerry Jones said, "Well, CD, you're missed, okay?" But in that same, it wasn't even an interview, it was very casual, but in that same conversation, I guess, he was saying, like, you're not missed, but you are missed. It was very complicated.
Yeah.
And basically, Jerry is kind of toying with him. I respect the whole, like, you need to be here kind of thing and laying down the law. And, like, yes, you are important to this team, but also the team is not just one guy, and we have a bunch of other guys we're focusing on right now, and so that's kind of the update there.
Yeah, it's just, I would say it's different because a lot of the times you see, like, for Justin Jefferson, for example, the players win. They always, the ownership always caves in, they always pay him, but right now you have Jerry Jones. It's basically, I believe it's more of like an ego battle kind of thing, and Jerry's not going to lose that. So, yeah, Jerry's not shy with his words, and as far as we know, there's really no movement, and if anyway they're going backwards.
Yeah,
you know?
And I feel that if CeeDee Lamb was just wanting a new contract bigger than the one he has now, they would immediately do it. But because he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback, they're like, hold on, slow your roll. Did you show up in the playoffs when it mattered? No. But yeah, we're still watching to see what happens, but time is ticking. I mean, season's coming up quick. Another wide receiver news: Patriots released wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. He's bouncing around now. They do owe him $7 million. But yeah, it's crazy. Like 2 years ago, he was all that, and then
he had that great run with the Steelers, and then he kind of bounced around the Chiefs, Patriots, and now we'll see if a team picks him up. But he could just not be on a team next year.
Yeah, or at least middle of the season, maybe somebody grabs him based on injuries or something. The Cowboys sent cornerback Nashawn Wright to the Vikings for cornerback Andrew Booth. It was just a pretty equal trade. Nothing, wasn't big names,
just depth again.
Yeah. This was interesting. The Delta plane carrying the Panthers players and staff back from New England slid off the taxiway and into the mud at Charlotte Douglas International Airport early on Friday morning. Fortunately, there were no injuries, and Delta apologized for the inconvenience, but it's a little frightening whenever that happens. Like, these are the top-notch,
Yeah, you don't think of that. It's, these guys are these professionals and professional teams with professional equipment. It shouldn't happen. But, I mean, glad nobody, was hurt, and yeah.
The Browns and the Seahawks made a trade. Cleveland received center Nick Harris and a 2026 7th-round pick, and Seattle received a 2026 6th-round pick. The Browns getting offensive line depth is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, like this year they're trying to capitalize on like their great defense that they had last year, and we'll see what Deshaun Watson has this year. But again, just more depth for them. So
here's the big news from the week: Hassan Reddick requested a trade. Now Hassan Reddick just joined the Jets, and yet he requested a trade. And the Jets responded, "We have informed Hassan that we will not trade him, that he is expected to be here with his teammates, and that he will continue to be fined for the CBA if he does not report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here as we prepare for the regular season." I love the stance the Jets are taking.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but if you didn't want Hassan back in March, what team's gonna want him now?
Yeah, I don't really get it. It's fun to watch, it's everybody's posting the memes about Hassan Reddick's run with the Jets, and then it's Rodgers' run with the Jets so far, but it's like I don't get it. It's like he really got that impatient, and like you said, I like what the Jets are doing. They're like, we open trade discussions. We talked about this in March, and if nobody wants you now, nobody's going to want you, and you're going to get fined until you can.
Yeah, and hopefully he does show up. Rodgers was asked about it in his interview, and he said that he kind of like stands with Hassan. It's obviously better for the team if he's here, but also he's like supporting Hassan. I don't know. It was very strange. It's not what I would want to hear from a starting quarterback, but I also understand that like it's hard for a player to look like they're siding with the organization versus your teammate and that whole thing. Right. So, the Lions running back Jamar Gibbs left practice with a leg injury. This was 2 days ago now. Yeah. But we've seen so many injuries in training camp.
Yeah, I do believe news came out today that it doesn't seem to be that bad. They're gonna, obviously, as you should be precautious with it. He probably won't see the field again until week 1. Maybe even they might just hold him out week 1. But a big key to their offense, and with hamstring, any soft tissue, you have to be careful.
Yeah, and it's tough because even with starters or a team that has basically the same core that they did last season, and even though preseason isn't the same at all as regular season, it's good to get those in-game reps beforehand. And now he's probably, like you said, missing out on all that. The Bills placed wide receiver Chase Claypool on IR, ending his season, and injuries. I mean, injuries were hitting their defense last year,
and now they're hitting.
Now they're offense.
Claypool's he's another interesting one. He kind of had that same run with the Steelers. And he got traded to the Bears and just kind of spiraled downward, and we'll see what's left of his career, I guess.
Yeah. So there's a lot of joint practices between different teams, and everyone handles them differently. Most of it is pretty vanilla when it comes to the playbook. Yeah. But the coaches especially, main concern with joint practices is the fighting. And typically that happens when they practice against each other more than one day, like in a row. Yeah. But Patriots head coach Jerod Mayo talked about the team fighting, and he said if you're a starter, you're going to play the whole preseason game because the starters don't want to play the preseason game. If you're not a starter, so you're trying to earn that roster spot, you're trying to earn, to work up the depth chart, said you won't play at all. And I love that stance, and Packers head coach Matt LaFleur said that they're doing the same thing with their training camp, so I think that's the way to go, laying down the law.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, every team takes preseason different and training camp and joint practices. But yeah, I like the stance that Mayo took, but again, every team is different, and I just like to see the competition between the guys, because that's what kind of preseason is. You see it in games that the starters usually play for a little bit. Yeah. But most of it is just, all right, you backups and third strings and rookies, you show why you deserve to make the 52-man roster.
For sure. Tavon Austin, the real ones remember him. Yeah. He officially announced his retirement from the NFL. He had a good run.
We've all seen the highlight mixtape. One of the most electric guys in college. Had a nice NFL career, and just a guy that we all loved watching growing up.
Browns linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah agreed to terms on a 3-year deal worth up to $39 million with $25 million guaranteed. This is so well deserved. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Yeah. So underrated.
Very young too. I think he's 24, 25, something like that. Had a solid year last year with the Browns. Really a key to their defense, and locks them up for the next couple of years. Yeah.
Ravens tight end Mark Andrews was in a car accident this morning. It's Wednesday right now. He was evaluated by team doctors and appeared to have escaped without any apparent injuries. He did show up later today for the team meetings, but he did also make a reminder of hey, this is why it's so important to be attentive while you're driving and to buckle up while you drive. And I love when anybody, but especially somebody who has a voice out there, who has a social media presence, is going to use that voice that they have, that platform that they have to encourage safe driving.
Yeah, I mean, we've had fortunate circumstances with car accidents in the NFL, especially this year. But glad to see Andrews made it out okay. And again, like you said, just a reminder to just be careful.
Yeah. Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy, he had went to the team saying that he had some knee pain. They ended up saying, okay, it looks like he's going to need surgery, and then we will see what his status is for the season. He had surgery today. They did need to do a full meniscus repair, and he is officially out for the 2024 season.
Yeah.
He played so well.
He had one or two kind of expected bad drives in the preseason, but after that he kind of turned it on and looked like a starter. Just a brutal. I mean, I don't know if he was going to start. Probably not. Darnold's again. They have Sam Darnold, who's a very solid starting quarterback, but just unfortunate he's going to miss his whole rookie year. But speedy recovery to him, and I guess they're looking forward to 2025 because injuries kind of keep piling up for them.
Yeah, and it's hard. You could see, like, even just within the game, the chemistry building with his teammates, and that's what really helped him have that run, have that push, in the middle of his preseason debut. But, yeah, the injuries suck, so hopefully he can come back strong next year. Brandon Ayuk did arrive at 49ers practice wearing team gear. Still no deal has been done.
Yeah. There's more rumors.
Yeah, more rumors. Sides are clearly not.
I don't even know anymore.
It seems like they're far still, but he at least is present, which is good for the team.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of rumors, especially with the Steelers, that they're like, okay, we just need them to sign off, and nobody signed off. And then now Ayuk shows up at Niners camp with team gear on, and I'm just as confused as anybody, I guess.
And then lastly, the Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison was carted off the field with a leg injury, and his teammates were all, gathered around. But then it sounds like he injured his ankle. He's unlikely to practice tomorrow, but Kevin O'Connell said he doesn't believe it's to be serious and that he should be okay. Hopefully that is the case. Yeah. The last thing they need is another injury. Jordan Addison's one of the great young receivers in this league.
Yeah, I mean, Vikings fans got that news within hours between JJ and then Addison. Like you said, hopefully it's nothing serious because, they have Jefferson, but Addison was starting to look like another top guy for them.
Yeah. But that's it for the weekly news. Next up, we're going to do a little preseason week 1 recap, and then we'll dive into our AFC regular season predictions. All right, so now we're going to do our little preseason recap. First up, we'll just go game by game. So Thursday, August 8th, the Patriots beat the Panthers 17-3.
Again, I'm not. I know you're much more of a preseason person than I am. Just kind of a.
Well, I'm more of a football fan than you.
Yeah, sure. So it's just again kind of just a sloppy game, I guess. It was 10-0 at one point, and then I just kind of stopped watching it, to be honest. But yeah, so
only the real ones watch all the way through. But yeah, I mean the Patriots, like their 4th-string quarterback looked the best, and he was most exciting to watch. There's interesting things like that can happen during preseason. The Panthers, Bryce Young did not play, so again, it was really focused on backups, and most people were excited to see the quarterbacks, which happens a lot in preseason. But like Drake May, we want to see him, and I feel like he didn't get as many reps as people were wanting or even expecting. We'll see how that plays out for the rest of the preseason. But I do wonder, I could be wrong, but I do wonder if that means that the race for QB1 is closer based on training camp, and they don't want to risk his injury. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you don't want to risk anybody's injury, but if you know for a fact, like JJ, a fact that he's going to start as your backup, you'll have them out there longer and let them. So I don't know, but like you said, it wasn't necessarily the most interesting game, but there were some fun highlights, especially for the Patriots offense. So the next up was the Texans Steelers. The Texans won 20-12. That was Friday, August 9th.
Yeah, again, no starters played, I believe, for either side, but it's interesting, like with the Steelers, because
Stroud started.
Did he start?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, with the Steelers, it's like you have obviously Russell Wilson and Fields, but it's like who's the third string and this and that. But yeah, I guess just more experience, especially for the Texans, who kind of are another young team that are still trying to find or fill in that depth in their roster. So
yeah. So then. A big one that people were really excited to see was obviously Caleb Williams.
Yes.
And so the Bears played the Bills, and the Bears won 33-6.
Yeah, Caleb didn't play only a couple of drives. He did, he did all right. This was his first preseason action. Again, he's not going to play much. He's their week 1 starter. We know that. But yeah, just again more, a little of the Caleb hype, I guess. But again, just more more rookies and younger guys playing to try to build around Caleb and that new look offense.
Yeah, and I think with Caleb, like people, well, I think with everybody, but you see a lot of people who were Caleb Williams fans. Mm-hmm. They were all, oh my gosh, he looked electric. Look at this throw. Look at this play. Look at his drive. Whatever. And then those who are not Caleb Williams fans, not believers, are like, what in the world? Yeah. He barely showed anything. He's not going to be the star that everyone says he is. Everyone needs to take a chill pill because it's one preseason game. He showed some good. He showed some not so good. That's to be expected. He is growing. And no, we do not know from one preseason game if he's going to be a Hall of Famer or a bust. We don't know that yet. So everyone's got to relax. At least that's my view. The Broncos and the Colts played on Sunday. The Broncos won 34-30.
Bo Nix. What a showing from Bo.
Awesome. I was happy for him.
I think we both are on the same page that Sean Payton runs things there. So if Sean Payton wants Bo Nix week 1, he's going to get Bo Nix week 1. But Bo played very well. And, kind of expected for a guy that had a very long college career. Again, more polished probably than a lot of other rookie quarterbacks. So, I don't know. It's looking that he may have the week 1 job. Again, based on the unofficial depth chart, he was the third string. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see.
This was back on Thursday. The Giants beat the Lions 14-3. There was some exciting moments for the Giants. I will say that. You could see some energy, and I liked seeing that from them.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors is another big one that, from what I've been seeing on social media and in games, it's just miles better than they kind of expected. He's already shown flashes that he's going to be their guy and a guy that hopefully Daniel Jones looks for a lot this season and just a shimmer of light in that Giants' entire locker room.
Yeah. Dolphins-Falcons. So Dolphins won 20-13. A little bit, like it was kind of a close-ish game. Like it had that feeling. Yeah, Dolphins did pull out the win.
Yeah, another...
Penix is looking all right,
Yeah, again, Penix, a guy that a lot of controversy on him after he was drafted. But again, obviously Kirk is the starter there. But Penix has shown that he could be a starter, and we'll see what happens with Kirk. Hopefully, he's all right. Kirk's all right, and he did get cleared to play a couple weeks ago. But always nice to have the backup, and if Penix can go out and show people wrong, more power to him.
I'm going to say again that the controversy should not be around Penix, just like the controversy should not have been around Jordan Love. Controversy with the pick, all right, whatever, make your statements. I always think that, just in general, people reacting strongly one way or the other after a draft pick when they haven't played, or even just after one preseason game is ridiculous. You make yourself sound stupid usually.
You see it in sports all the time, though.
But what?
You see it
in sports. And I can't stand it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it's almost always negative, and I'm not a person who's a fan of negativity at all. But Penix, don't have controversy around him when you didn't see him play yet. That's my feeling. The Eagles beat the Ravens 16-13 back on Friday. That was a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch it, but I'm sure it was a great game.
Did you watch the highlights?
No.
All right. You're not prepared. The Jets beat the Commanders 20-17. Aaron Rodgers didn't play.
When was the last time you played in a preseason?
He played with the Packers in preseason.
Like recent.
They would do it. He
would do a drive. He would do a drive. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and again, I'm surprised he's there. At least he's there.
He did talk today about preseason and that they're still trying to figure out if he will play at all this preseason. They're taking it week by week. It's not like he's not playing at all preseason or he's going to play this. They're taking it week by week.
I don't think he'll play, but.
But Jaden Daniels, he was showing some promise. Yeah. He was showing some highlights. So.
Yeah, I want Jaden to do really well. I do, because the Commanders are just a team that just kind of doesn't have a lot going for them, and if Jaden can show something, hopefully they can build around him. But yeah.
We already talked about JJ a little bit, but the Vikings-Raiders game was probably the best because it was 24-23 Vikings.
Yeah, JJ, I think he threw a pick early, but then after that he looked really good. But yeah, this was obviously before all of the news came out, but I did see some highlights from that one from JJ, and he just kind of looked like he was comfortable back there. And for a guy that I will admit that I feel like I wouldn't say he was protected in Michigan, but he didn't have like the big arm or the big plays. That's a running school. It's a Big Ten school. He did show some promise, and unfortunate that his season ended today.
Yeah. The Raiders are such a hard team to predict for this season, and you can't predict it based on preseason.
Yeah.
You can't predict any team based on preseason, but it's like they have so many questions. They lost a few star players, and it's just like truly, what are they going to be? And if you look at their schedules, like you can see that maybe having some fight or having a few wins, but like I don't know, I don't know if they're going to be good. Yeah, it's so tough, but like also you could be like, all right, maybe they have some grit to them. They have Devontae, you know, like maybe they will win.
It's a weird team. There's a lot of like question marks.
I've seen predictions all over the world. Some have them as this like dark horse Super Bowl team, and then some have them like top 5 draft pick. It is all over the board. Yeah. The Packers-Browns played. The Packers won 23-10. Deshaun Watson did not play. Jordan Love did for what ended up being 3 plays.
Yeah.
Ending in a touchdown. But yeah, the Packers had control the whole game.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, yeah, it was. I think Love came in. It was a run, a screen pass at a 65-yard touchdown. Then he was out. Clifford and Pratt both played. But again, it was just kind of there were a lot of rookies, a lot of younger guys from both sides. But yeah, as far as Jordan Love goes, I think they've kind of discussed. I don't know if he's going to play any more preseason. They're kind of they're not sure yet, but they're glad he didn't have to play much.
I'm really hoping to see Deshaun Watson at some point in the preseason for the Browns. But it is interesting. Like, every team is pretty basic with their playbook. I think the Browns showed a little bit more than the Packers. I mean, Matt LaFleur is all about, like, the motions and everything.
Yeah.
They weren't doing any of that. Like, they were so vanilla. It's kind of like backyard football, that game. The Jaguars beat the Chiefs 26-13. Mac Jones played pretty well. And some are saying that Trevor Lawrence has some pressure on him. If he does not play up to what he needs to play to, because he has not lived up to the potential yet. He has not lived up to the number 1 overall hype yet. Like, that's just, and I like Trevor. Like, I do.
Trevor, he got paid.
It's just facts. And he did get paid, and now it's like, oh, okay, so we paid you.
Now
you have to show that you're worth that money. And I'm not saying that Mac Jones would go take his job. Like, obviously, we all saw Mac Jones. He's shown Pro Bowl, and then he's also shown epic failure. But he looked pretty good. He looked comfortable in the system. Again, it's just preseason, but there was already pressure on Trevor. There's already extra pressure being the number 1 overall pick. And now you just got paid. It's like, you got to shine.
I mean, it's an interesting thing. You know, it's like, all right, you know, you've kind of been like mediocre. You're number 1 pick. You know, national champion and this and that, and one of the highest paid guys. Now you have to show at least something that we made the right decision at least. You know.
The Buccaneers beat the Bengals 17-14. It was kind of just your typical preseason game.
Yeah,
just truly
a lot of all right, backups, third strings, like see what you got, and again more film. I want to say more film, more decisions to be made yet for all the teams, and this is again what preseason is all about.
And I will say that overall, teams did come out healthy in preseason. You know, in the preseason week 1, it's just been training camp that we've seen some injuries. The Titans beat the 49ers 17-13. The Titans are a really interesting team. Again, kind of like the Raiders, really hard to predict. It's you could see they could make a run in their division, and you could also be like, they might be dead last. Like,
it's just that division. We'll get into it later, but it's an interesting division with a lot of young quarterbacks. You know,
it really is. And honestly, like, you could predict, like, a lot of people would say the Texans are the strongest pick because of how well they did. But of the other 3, you could pick any of them to be like, all right, that's the team that's gonna fight the Texans for the number 1 or make the playoffs, whatever.
You can have a solid argument.
You can have a solid argument, or you could also have a solid argument for why they're going to only win 4 or 5 games. The Seahawks beat the Chargers 16-3.
Chargers are another
And the Seahawks. It's like the Chargers
Seahawks
have so much potential and so much hope with Jim Harbaugh now. They have got to get it done. Justin Herbert, we need to unlock everything from this team and see them go make the playoffs and win a playoff game. The Seahawks, it's like...
Post Pete Carroll.
Do we know? Yeah, post Pete Carroll. What's this new head coach going to look like? Is Geno really going to be that guy, or is he just the placeholder for when they draft? Like, it's so interesting. But that's honestly what I love about preseason. Like, you're getting to see some backups and see possibly who their future is. The Saints beat the Cardinals 16-14. This was another fun, close game.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Still a lot of... I still think he's gonna. Yeah, it's still gonna be. I guess we've seen more hype, I guess, with Malik Neighbors more than Marvin Harrison, but I'm still excited for Kyler and Marvin Harrison this year. Again, another kind of team that has a lot of potential, and if they can find something between those two, who knows?
But you cannot talk about this game without talking about Spencer Rattler. What was looking good? Yeah. He showed that dog in him. Honestly, I hope he does well. I hope he gets a chance. Even if it's later in the season or next season, whatever it is, I hope he really gets a chance in this league. And then last but not least, the Rams beat the Cowboys 13-12. That was also on Sunday.
Stetson Bennett's seen better days.
Yeah, that was rough. He had 4 interceptions in
Some
one
of them were
game.
just head scratchers.
They were, and if you look around throughout the preseason games, if you actually watched, you would see that some of these interceptions were your typical it was tipped by, somebody, or they got hit as they threw. Simpson's, it was just a rough day for him where it was just wow, that was a really bad throw, and I feel bad for him. I mean, you don't want to see that. He was clearly frustrated.
He's what, 20? He was at Georgia for a long time.
It seemed like after he threw his first one, it just, set him off, and he just wasn't.
I think with 2 of them, it's you almost want to see it from behind the quarterback to see what he's seeing, because it almost looked like he just threw it right at a defender.
But again, you can also be there's backups out there on all levels. Maybe guys are running the wrong routes, because that definitely happens.
Yes.
You've seen that last year in the regular season with a lot of players. These young guys, some veterans, but usually it's the young guys. They're not running the right routes. They don't know the playbook, and then it just makes the quarterback look bad until somebody confirms in the post-game press conference, oh yeah, he ran the wrong route. But that's it for preseason. This is all about evaluating the teams, cutting the rosters down to 53, arranging their practice squad. We have 2 more weeks of preseason left, and then regular season will finally be here, which everyone is excited for. So next, we're going to look into our AFC predictions. We predicted every game of the regular season, so we'll go over some of our AFC predictions and what the final playoff standings will look like for just the AFC. All right, so now we're going to finally get into our predictions, and we're going to start with what some may say is the best division in football. Definitely the best division in the AFC, which is the AFC North. So the Ravens, Browns, Steelers, and Bengals. You can go up first. Whoever you pick.
Well, I guess we'll start at the bottom. The Steelers. I have the Steelers last. They're 10-7. I don't think any of these teams are finishing under 500. I think that with the Steelers, even with Russell Wilson there and that defense, they just kind of have some games where it's I don't know, they have the Cowboys. They have a lot of their I think the last weeks 13 through 18, they have 5 of the last 8 are all division games. So just kind of, again, a tough division, but I do see the Steelers kind of struggling, being kind of that 500-ish team, especially with those better teams in that division. That I just don't think they'll be good, but in that division, just not good enough.
Well, I'll say my rankings at the end, but since you started with the Steelers, I'll go with the Steelers and just say that I have them being one of those teams where somebody who should beat them, who will be favored against them, the Steelers are going to spoil their party. But then the Steelers also have some games where, or they have some little stretches where it's okay, this is a little rough, we're not doing well. But I have them doing well still, overall.
I guess next up is the Browns. I also have them finishing at 10-7, so again, that kind of could flip flop here. I do have them starting out very well, and I have them losing their last 4 games of the season.
Wow.
So I have them at 10-3 and then 10-7 because the last 4 games are Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens. Jeez. They have a fairly easy stretch. Giants, Raiders, Commanders, is it Eagles? But then they do have like Bengals and Ravens, and they have a pretty favorable bye week in week 10. But just again, the Browns and Steelers I kind of expect them. I've seen this to finish within a game of each other. I think all of these teams could finish within a game or two.
Cleveland is hosting the Dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
and you think the Dolphins are going to go in there in week 17 in Cleveland and win?
Yes, that's what I have them.
Interesting. I don't have them ending the season 0-4. I have them ending the season 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have for the Browns is that they have a very up and down. But then they do, starting with a couple weeks before their bye, they start going on a run. But then they do hit a bumpy spot in week 14 against the Steelers and the Chiefs, dropping 2 losses in a row, where then they really need to get their act together to fight for a playoff chance.
Next up, and then I'll have the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is back. They should be back to within at least a playoff team. I have them at 11-6. They get the Chiefs. They have to play at the Chiefs, at the Ravens, at the Chargers, at the Cowboys, and then obviously at the Steelers. Those are their losses. I think they're going to be a very good home team. I don't have them losing a home game.
Wow, that's impressive. Like you said, Joe Burrow's coming off an injury, and we don't know what that holds, honestly, that serious of an injury. The Bengals, again, I have them doing well-ish. I have them doing pretty well, but what ends up killing them is the fact that they dropped both games to the Ravens.
I cannot wait for these division games, just within all of the division games. But I think the Ravens, I would get to them after this, but I don't think they'll both the games. It'll be interesting. That's interesting that you predicted that, but I don't. Joe Burrow coming off that injury, he's had so many pretty serious injuries that it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back from this one. But yeah.
So let's look for the Ravens.
Ravens, I have them at 12-5. So 2 games separates first and fourth in this division for my predictions. I have them. They have a week 14 bye week. Week 13 through 18. I have them winning out. I have Eagles, Giants, Steelers, Texans, Browns. Again, another. I think they're going to lose at the Steelers. They play the Chiefs week 1. I have them dropping week 1 to the Chiefs, even though they host it. But I don't. I think that hopefully.
Kansas City.
I think that hopefully that they hit their stride when they need to, and they can finally get over that hump in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't have them winning out that like you do.
Mm-hmm.
I have them ending 3-2.
Okay.
So I have them dropping to the Eagles, and they have their bye week. They get their act together with the Giants and Steelers. I do have them dropping to the Texans in Houston. I think that crowd with the Houston Texans, who at that point I do have them being able to fight for that, to secure a playoff spot. So I have the Texans winning that game, but then the Ravens do end with a win against the Browns. So what I have ending, so I don't know how you did your predictions. I don't know if you predicted this is what the record's going to be, and then you decide which wins and losses, or if you just went by game.
I went game by game.
Okay, so did I. I think all of these teams are going to look really good. They're going to look like some of the best teams in the AFC, but I don't have any of them with a great record. All of them are 10-7. Every single team in this division I have at 10-7, which I've never had before. I've been doing predictions since 2018. I've never, ever had this. But it ends up being the Ravens first, because this is based on division wins and conference wins, the tiebreakers. The Ravens end up being the division winners. Then the Steelers end up being second, Browns, and then Bengals, just because, like I said, what kills the Bengals is they drop 2 to the Ravens.
Yeah, I do believe that. I
like all the teams. I like
every single one of these teams. When there is a division game, those guys need to be on it because I fully believe the seeding, playoff seeding, division seeding, who makes the playoffs is going to come down to those games.
All the AFC games,
So,
not just the division. It's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, I honestly think that, and I have my predictions here, but whoever has the best division record wins that division, because I mean I think they're going to look the strongest. They're going to have like their I would say the gimme wins, but yeah, I think whoever in that division looks the best against the other three teams is going to end up winning the division.
I would not be surprised if every division game in this division looks like a playoff game.
Yeah.
Especially the
Like later,
second ones,
yeah.
you know?
And, the later ones in the season, the December, the January games, when teams are getting desperate and everybody's beat up and just trying to scrap for those playoff spots.
And like you said, you know, like even just looking at the Browns, I know you have them ending really, really poorly. But if you just look at like week 14, they play the Steelers. Week 16, they play the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Week 18, they play the Ravens. The schedule makers really do have a lot of these games because some of the schedule makers aren't like this, where all of their division games are right at the end. That you sometimes see that, sometimes don't. But with this division, they made sure that they are ending most of these division games. You know that's how they ended their season, and I think. I mean, like I said, they're all 10-7, so it's really going to come down to which games they won and lost. It's wild. I'm so excited for this division. But yeah, next up, we're going to move to the AFC South. Next up, we have the AFC South. So who do you want to kick it off with this time?
We'll go with we'll start with the Titans. I won't say my record, first of all, but the Titans will Levis. This whole division is, you call it the baby brother division. All of these quarterbacks are pretty young. Lawrence is the only one that's been paid. We didn't see much of Richardson last year, but I have the Titans starting out 0-4. Bears, Jets, Packers, Dolphins, and then they have their bye week.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I could see it happening. That is very possible. I have them starting 1-3. I actually have the Jets dropping the game to the Titans, and it's not because of anything necessarily against the Jets, but I do have the Jets this season, which we'll get into more. But like a few games, they really just like that they really should win. They end up just dropping. But yeah, and I think the Titans, you know, that'll be their home opener, and I think they're going to be excited because they do get to see Will Levis again. And I don't know, I think there is some excitement around this team, excitement around a new head coach. So that's why I think they're going to get that win. But I still do have them starting really rough before the bye.
Yeah, I don't know. This new regime kind of this is a feel it out year for them. They could go in and shock some people, but yeah, a lot of question marks.
I do have them ending better. Like they basically they're not winning this division. I don't have them winning this division, but I do have them showing hope for the future.
Okay. Next up, I'll actually go to the Texans, the team that obviously everybody favors. They started pretty well. I have them dropping the week 1 game to the Colts. They go to Indianapolis. Okay. Then they win their next 5, and then they run to the Packers. But kind of an up and down year for them. They like win a few in a row, lose a few in a row. Stroud I think he's going to look more comfortable. He had a really good rookie year that's going to be pretty hard to surpass, but especially with Diggs there, it'll be interesting to see how his personality fits with the team. But yeah,
I have them starting 5-1, and then they go on a 3-game losing streak. They hit a rough spot, but then they do get their act together. Now the one game that makes the one prediction I have that makes this division and makes this team interesting is that week 13 at the Jaguars, I have it ending in a tie.
Okay.
It's my only tie the whole season.
Yeah. I don't know. Ties are very hard to predict. And especially, I don't know. I've always been one that I don't like ties in the NFL, just because it's like, what are we doing? You know. But again, there's no. I love that there's no ties in college. But the NFL. But again, you rarely see it in the NFL. It does not happen very often, and when it does, both teams just kind of walk away like, you know, I would say just not happy, not upset, just kind of like.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think it's part of the game. Like I part of this league, and I think the playoff implications it can have too is really, really interesting, and
especially if it's a division game.
And the way they respond, and yeah, that's the thing. I have this as a division tie. So who do you want next?
We'll go with the Jaguars next. Trevor Lawrence needs to show something. I have them starting out 1-3, but then after that they win 4 of their next 5, and just kind of finish the season kind of up and down. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence needs to show something, and if he doesn't, I don't know how much patience Jaguar fans have left with him.
I have the Jaguars starting 3-3, so just very middle of the pack. But then, yeah, like you said, it is pretty up and down. The tie ends up benefiting them against the Texans in Week 13, but they look okay. They look good this season. I have them, but it isn't as good as the fans are gonna want.
Yeah,
I guess is what I would say.
Last up, the Colts. We didn't see much last year of Richardson. They played it safe with him, and I got even more hype around him. He has his offensive line. He has his weapons. The defense is improved. I have them starting out 3-1. Their one loss is when they go to the Packers. That's the Packers home opener. Those fans are going to be excited for that new and improved team. And then I do have the Colts winning their last 4.
That's very interesting because I have the Colts starting the season 1-3. They look rough. They're kind of trying to get their act together. But I also have them winning their last 4. That's so interesting. After the bye, they hit their stride, and they try to go on a run to see if they can vie for a spot.
Yeah, I mean, looking at those games, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jaguars. I mean, 3 of those 4, I would argue, are gimme wins. And
they host the Titans and Jags and play in Denver and in New York.
So, again, those 2 away games are really teams that we don't really know, but we kind of don't expect a lot from them. So, I guess for my rankings, I have the Titans at 5-12, at last in the division. Jaguars, I have at 8-9, and then Colts and Texans both 11-6, and then I have the Texans winning the division.
Okay. I have the Titans at 7-10. I think we have the same order, but Titans at 7-10. So, like I said, they show some promise, but it's still not like winning record yet. Jaguars at 9-7-1, but then it's not enough because the Colts edge them out at 10-7, and the Texans win the division 10-6-1.
Okay, so same order, same kind of what we expect from all the teams. I really don't. I don't know. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm not a big believer in the Titans personally, just because it's a lot of new faces. But those Texans, Colts, for sure, I think will be up there. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, I don't know. I haven't really seen a whole lot to be like, okay, like they're going to go and compete with the Texans and the Colts. I don't know.
But yeah, the Colts and Jaguars are very interesting because I have the Colts and the Jaguars both winning weeks 15, 16, and 17, and they play each other week 18, and that's what decides the play. Like they're the division seeding, and yeah, the Colts edge them out. So yeah, next up we are going to move on to the AFC East. So for our third division, it is the AFC East. So Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots. Who do you want to start off with this time?
We'll start with the Bills this time. Josh Allen kind of doesn't have anybody anymore. He's kind of like he's still obviously Josh Allen, one of the better quarterbacks we have. But I don't know. I looked over their schedule and I'm like, they have some easy wins. I kind of have a shocker. I have them week 11. I do have them beating the Chiefs.
Me too.
So it's a home game for them. I think they lose some there are some games there where they should win. Like week 18, in the Patriots, I have them losing that game. But yeah, I don't really know with the Bills this year. I think they'll still be above 500, but just a lot of question marks.
I have the Bills starting out pretty up and down. They don't look like they have good chemistry out there. They don't look like a scary team. But then once, week 11 against the Chiefs, that kind of gets them going, but then they have their bye. I do have them dropping to the Niners in week 13. But then I have them winning out after that against the Rams, Lions, Patriots, Jets, and then Patriots again. And that is what they need to go into the playoffs.
Yeah. I think a lot of teams are forgetting about the Jets. So I'll actually do the Jets next. Niners week one, they're not winning that game. I don't think. I think that Rodgers is gonna. I wouldn't say he's gonna be hesitant, but coming off the Achilles, I don't know how comfortable he's gonna look. He's this will be his first real look at the team, I guess, in a full regular season game. So I have them losing the first one, but then winning the next three, and then just throughout the rest of the season, just up and down, a couple wins, couple losses. Um, I have them not doing that well. I was 3-3 in the. Sorry, no, 2-5. No, yeah, no, 2-4 in the division. My bad. 2-4 in the division. So I think they do struggle with their division losses a little bit, and they lose some games where they probably shouldn't.
I have them against they are 1-1 against each of their division opponents. I have them starting out 0-2, but then they win their next four. But then it's after their bye week that they drop too many games. But they do end week 18 with a win against the Dolphins.
I guess we'll move into the Dolphins then. They had an electric offense last year and hit the cold weather, and they just really didn't look like the same team at all. I have them starting out 4-1, however. Then they hit their bye week, and their back end of their schedule is pretty rough. Packers, Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, Jets is not fun. I have them going 2-4 in that stretch. So I think they start out pretty well, and they just kind of spiral downward. I don't think they'll finish very strong.
Yeah, I have the Dolphins kind of taking a step back this year. I honestly have the Dolphins and the Bills taking a step back. They just don't look as intimidating as I feel like they should. And again, like with the Bills, like they end their season strong. The Dolphins don't as much, and that ends up being a huge decider. But I do have them starting out strong. It's just that then after their bye, which is an early bye, they just... Yeah. I mean, who knows? It could be injuries. It could be weather, whatever it is. They hit some bumps and don't look the same as they did in the beginning.
Last up, we have the Patriots 6-11. New everything. New quarterback, new coach, new system. Everything is new for them. And coming with a new everything is some struggles. I have them starting out 1-6. I don't expect them to. I'll just start. They're going to finish last in their division. They're 6-11. They're going to be the one pretty dark. I would say dark. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to have a chance at the division. I think the other three teams do, but I just think the Patriots need to focus on what they look like, what their system is, what their identity is, and that's all the season is going to be for them.
Okay. Yeah, so I have the Patriots they start out very, very, very poorly. But then they do go on a 3-game winning streak. You kind of see the possible potential. And then they have a win week 13 against the Colts. Then they have their bye. And they do beat the Cardinals, but then they do end their last 3 games with losses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for my standing, I have the Bills winning the division, but they win it at 10-7.
Okay.
Again, nobody's intimidating here. But the Bills look really good at the end, so it's like, okay, they weren't great in the regular season, but they ended really well, and that's what the kind of springboard they need. Let's see what kind of playoff run they can go on. So their record doesn't look intimidating, but their end of the season run does, if that makes sense. Then the Dolphins at 9-8, and the Jets as well at 9-8, but the Dolphins are ahead because they are 4-2 in the division, where the Jets are 3-3. Okay. And then I have the Patriots going 5-12.
I have the Jets winning this division at 11-6. I think that
Wow.
I do think that they have a pretty favorable schedule. They do have some tough teams. Obviously, the Niners they have the Bills obviously twice, the Dolphins twice, which could be tough. But yeah, I think like I said, they dropped to the Niners. They dropped the first week 1 to the Niners. They win the next 3, and then I think they have 10 through 13. They have their bye week 12. They win 3 in a row, and then they have 2. They only have 2 losses after week 10. So I do think that eventually Rodgers will get comfortable with this offense with Garrett Wilson. The defense will be the defense we expect them to be, and it'll be close, but they'll be 11. They'll win the division at 11-6, and then I have the Bills at 10-7 as well.
Interesting.
And then the Dolphins, I have them at 8-9.
Wow.
So I don't know. I do think, like you said, it's a step back for the Dolphins. Last year was a lot for them. They surprised a lot of teams, and they very well could keep that.
Yeah.
But I think their back half of the schedule isn't favorable because they get Packers, Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, at Jets. So it's like those back half, especially like going to Cleveland and then to New York, like team games, that cold weather games that I don't think they're going to do well with.
And throughout the whole AFC, like, even my division winners, their records aren't looking incredible. And it's not because it's not necessarily because they're not a good team and that everyone's bad in the AFC. It's actually the opposite. There's so much competition in the AFC. And all of these teams could beat the other team on any given day. You know, like, even the Patriots, even the Broncos, who have question marks, they could come out and beat another one of these maybe better AFC teams. And so that's why these records, for me at least, are not looking incredible. But again, that is not to say that these teams aren't going to do well in the playoffs or win the Super Bowl, because these teams are aggressive. These teams are physical. These teams are stocked full of talent. And I could see a few of these different teams going on a playoff run. But now we'll head to the AFC West. Last but not least, we have the AFC West, so Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos.
We'll start with the Broncos for this one. I don't really expect a whole lot from them. They'll win a couple games, but I have them losing their last 6. Week 14 bye doesn't help them at all. Their last 3 games are Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs. They are in a pretty unfavorable division and conference, and Sean Payton still hasn't figured out. Bo Nix is probably going to start at some point. They'll try to see what they have with him, but I don't have them doing very well.
Yeah, I don't have the Broncos doing well either, but I think a lot of the losses that they do drop, there will be some close losses in there, you know, losing by a field goal, last-second field goal type of thing. And yeah, I mean, I like some players on their team, you know, I really do, but I just think that in the AFC, it's so competitive, and the Broncos just aren't ready to take that leap yet. I agree with you. Sean Payton just doesn't figure it out, and yeah, they look like one of the worst teams in the AFC.
Yeah. Next up, the reigning back-to-back Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't show any sign of slowing down. I have them losing one home game, Week 16, to the Texans. I think the Texans come in confident. They kind of catch the Chiefs a little bit off guard. But other than that, they win the rest of their home games. Okay. I have them losing the Super Bowl rematch to the Niners because it's in San Francisco. Yeah. That Niners team is going to do everything they can to make sure they win that game. Yeah. So hopefully, we'll see what they do in the playoffs. But yeah, I have them pretty comfortably winning the games that they should, and then just dropping a handful.
I have them starting the season 3-2. Then after their bye, they do lose to the Niners, but then they have a 3-game winning streak. Like we talked about earlier, I have them losing to the Bills, but then beating the Panthers. But then the Raiders come and surprise them into Kansas City. Those division games, honestly, the Chiefs-Raiders are always really interesting, and I do have the Raiders winning that one, actually. But then the Chiefs end up going 4-1 to end their season. I have them dropping to the Steelers in Week 17. But the Chiefs do, like you said, they don't look like they're going to slow down. I think their regular season record is a solid record, obviously, but that you really don't see the real Chiefs until the playoffs.
Yeah. Next up, the Raiders. I think we talked about it. Could be a dark horse team. Could be not a great team. I have them at not a great team. They start out. I have them starting out 2-7, and then they hit their bye week and they kind of win a couple, but they have some really Chargers, Ravens, Browns, Broncos, Chiefs. Obviously Chiefs, Bengals. Just not some fun games for them. I think they'll win their easy ones: Panthers, Rams, Broncos, Falcons. Some of those games, but I don't think they're going to show much.
Yeah, I have them going 2-7 as well, but 3 of their 4 wins, I would say, are not 3 of their 4. 3 of their 5 wins are actually pretty impressive wins that I have them. I have, like I said, them beating the Chiefs. I do have them winning that Week 18 game against the Chargers. And then I also have them beating the Steelers back in Week 6. So they show some fight against some teams that are really good, or average even. But yeah, and then I also have them beating the Panthers as well as the Broncos in Week 12.
Yeah, I do think that the Raiders could be that team that, it could be a Thursday night game, one of those games that's a 13-10 kind of win. It's nobody looks great, but the Raiders win on a last minute field goal or something like that. They could play spoilers, so especially with some of the team like the Chiefs, Chargers, some of the AFC teams, they could play spoiler to them.
I could see their defense making a few quarterbacks look bad or have their worst game against them. Honestly, the Raiders are interesting. So last up, the Chargers.
I'm fully on the Jim Harbaugh boat. I believe he is going to be the solution to all of their answers, or all their questions, rather. He's going to find something in Herbert that they've been looking for a while. They're gonna be at the top of their division. I do have them going to Arizona, losing Week 7 to the Cardinals. I think that's a big slip up for them. Big slip up for them. They'll be confident, bye week Broncos, and then they'll underestimate the Cardinals losing that one. But then after that, I have them winning their next 6.
Okay. I have them starting out really strong. I actually have them undefeated going into their Week 5 bye week. But then I actually have them dropping to the Broncos and the Cardinals. So they lose 2 in a row there. But then they go on a 3-game winning streak. But then Week 11 through Week 14, they are not good. They're losing some close games against some really good teams. But then they end the season 3-1. So again, kind of an up and down season, but you see them showing their potential, and because they end the season strong, that really ends up helping them when it comes to the playoff race. So what do you have for seeding?
Last in the division, I have the Broncos at 4-13. Third place, I have the Raiders at 5-12, and I believe both the Chiefs and the Chargers finish at 13-4. I have the Chiefs winning. But yeah, I have high expectations for the Chargers. They invested so much into that team. Staley was not it. I think Harbaugh's going to come in and find what they expected from that team and surprise a lot of people.
I also have the Broncos last 4-13 and the Raiders third at 5-12. I have the Chargers at 10-7, but because of that end of season run, it's a good 10-7. And the Chiefs at 11-6. I think the Chiefs could win more than that in the regular season, but it just feels like they just don't turn that switch on until at least the last couple weeks in the regular season, but definitely the playoffs. That's what they do, and you saw that last year. People are like, "Oh, what's wrong with the Chiefs? Are they not going to do well? Are they not the Super Bowl team?" And then they win the Super Bowl.
It's one of those things, you can see it more in the NBA, where it's these teams, they know when they need to turn it on. The Chiefs can do that.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you that they could, drop some games, maybe, to the Raiders or something like that. But they'll turn it on when they need to. They'll look like a playoff caliber team come January. And I don't see any signs of them looking at any less than the back-to-back Super Bowl champs.
So now for our AFC playoff seeding.
You want to just start 7?
Sure.
7th, I have the Browns at 10-7.
Okay. At 7, I have the Steelers.
Okay. 6, I have the Bills at 10-7.
Okay. At 6, I have the Chargers at 10-7.
5th seed, I have the Chargers at 13-4. I think the Chargers. I don't know if they could win that division if the Chiefs coast too much, but yeah, I have the Chargers at 5 seed.
5th, I have probably the dark horse, the real dark horse in the AFC, or in my AFC standings with the Colts.
My 4 seed is the Texans at 11-6.
Okay. My 4th seed is the Bills, but again, they end the season strong enough to win that division.
Yeah, Jets, I have them at the 3 seed. Texans and Jets have the same record, but Jets have a better division record.
Okay. I have the Ravens as my 3 seed. And it's because of a tie in another game that makes them not the 2 seed.
And then Ravens is my 2 seed at 12-5.
Okay, I have the Texans as my 2 seed again because of that tie.
Yeah, and then the Chiefs at 13-4, they win the AFC.
Yeah, and I do have the Chiefs winning the AFC by a slim margin. So yeah, those are our AFC predictions. Next week we're gonna do the same thing for the NFC. Again, these are really just for fun. And we will go through and do week 1 predictions and go week by week each week, do new predictions. But yeah, it's always fun to do before the season predictions. But we are not going to predict the playoffs based off of these predictions.
Right.
We're not going to worry about actual playoff predictions until later in the season. But we do have some really fun content for you this regular season. 3 weeks away until the real NFL season. I cannot wait. So we will see you next week.